I thought I knew what the stages of menopause were: hot flashes, period stopping, the end of one of life's chapters. And I'd heard those words my whole adult life, and I thought I was prepared. I thought, I'm a grown woman. I've been through hard things. I mean, I can handle a biological transition. I was not prepared for this, not even close. You know what gets me? Really gets me? Nobody told me. Not my doctor in any real depth, and not my mother, because, we didn't talk about those things. Although I do distinctly remember her getting really irate in the grocery store line one time. I was a teenager. I was so embarrassed, and I didn't understand why she was getting so angry about why the line was taking so long. And I didn't talk about it with my friends either, because we were just all kind of going through it, thinking it was just, our issue, our own personal issue, thinking that something was wrong with us specifically. Today I want to have the conversation that most of us never got, the real one, the stuff that actually surprised me, the symptoms that nobody puts on the list, and the emotional stuff that nobody warned me about, and the things that I really genuinely wish I'd known earlier. And if you're in the middle of this right now, or if you're approaching it, or if you're on the other side just nodding, this one is for you. Now, before I get to the surprises, I want to spend a minute on why we weren't told, because I don't think it was an accident. Menopause has always been treated as something as shameful and invisible for most of modern history. Women were supposed to just quietly endure and not bother anyone with it. The word itself was totally taboo in polite company. And doctors, who most of them were male, for much of the 20th century had little or no training, and often dismissed women's symptoms as anxiety or hysteria. 1.3 million American women enter menopause every year. And in average medical training, they get less than 7 hours of any kind of instruction about menopause. So that's less than 7 hours for something that affects every single woman who lives long enough to experience it. Women were not told because for a very long time, women's bodies and experiences were simply not considered worthy of studying, teaching, or talking about openly. And this is changing, thank goodness, but it hasn't changed fast enough for most of us who needed this information, 20 or fewer years ago. So let's change it ourselves right here, right now. Okay, so here's the 7 things that nobody told me about. Brain fog is real, and it's alarming. Oh gosh, I want to start here because I think this is the one that scares women the most and gets talked about the least. I know I walk into a room sometimes and I have absolutely no idea why I even entered the room or what I was going there for. I still lose words, and not just occasionally the way everyone does, but mid-sentence in a conversation, reaching for a word I've used 1,000 times. And the terrifying part, my first thought was, is this early dementia? Is something seriously wrong with my brain? And occasionally I still think that, but then I remember the stage I'm in, and I exhale a deep, relaxing breath. Because if it isn't dementia, it's estrogen. Estrogen plays a direct role in cognitive function, memory, and verbal fluency. And when it drops, your brain definitely feels it. Did you just hear that? Brain. This is documented, and it's real. And for most women, it improves significantly once the transition is complete. But nobody told me that, and I'm still waiting for it to end. This second one, anxiety, that came out of nowhere for me, and it was really horrible for me during my perimenopausal phase. I hadn't really been a really anxious person, and then seemingly overnight, I was waking up at 4 o'clock with my heart racing, and I couldn't fall back to sleep. And I had this low hum of dread that I couldn't name or explain. And I was worrying about things that I had never worried about before. If you experienced this or you're in it right now, I want you to know it's normal. It's not a sign that you're falling apart. The drop in estrogen and progesterone, directly affects the brain's anxiety regulation system. And many women end up being prescribed anti-anxiety medication when what they really need is a conversation about hormones. You deserve to have the right information and the right support. And for the third thought, sleep changes fundamentally. I knew about night sweats. What I didn't know it was that the sleep architecture itself changes during menopause, meaning the way your brain cycles through your sleep stages is disrupted on a biological level, which is kind of really fascinating, but it's scary. You may fall asleep fine, and then you find yourself wide awake at 2, 3, 4 o'clock with a mind that just won't shut down. Or perhaps, take what feels like forever to fall asleep and stay asleep. And when you have to function the next day and feel like you're running on empty, sleep deprivation compounds everything. The brain fog, the anxiety, and emotional sensitivity, and the physical symptoms. It's just a lot. And then there's grief, the actual grief of your body changing. This is the one I really wasn't prepared for emotionally. I thought that I was a reasonable, grounded person who made peace with aging. But when I looked in the mirror one day and couldn't recognize myself, I really honestly felt a grief that surprised me with its intensity and depth, especially lately. The shape of my body has gone from an hourglass to a pear. And it's not because of what I'm eating or that I'm moving or not moving. It's just the hormones, like literally redistributing fat during this transition. And my skin has changed and my hair has changed. Nobody told me that grieving these changes wasn't just vanity, and it's completely normal and a human response to, a physical transformation. Just give yourself permission to feel it. And when you're ready, let's talk about what comes next. This was really unexpected for me, and I'm really experiencing it lately. Joint pain and physical symptoms that nobody mentioned. My knees started to ache, and my shoulders and my hands sometimes. And lately, my hips. It's disturbing my sleep. And I thought, am I just getting old? Is this arthritis? Went to my doctor. I was like, my hips hurt. Why is this happening? Well, estrogen is an anti-inflammatory, and when it drops, many women experience joint pain and muscle stiffness, and even changes in dental health and dry eyes, all things that, are rarely listed under menopause symptoms, but are directly connected. I'm experiencing all of this all of a sudden, and quite frankly, I'm glad I'm talking about this because it makes me feel a little less crazy. Having a full medical workup will help you make sense of what's going on and connect the joint pain to your hormones. And knowing this doesn't make it go away, but it matters enormously to understand, what your body's doing. And the rage, oh my goodness. Sudden, unexpected, and very real. Now, I'm going to be careful with this because I want to be honest with everybody without being alarming. For me, again, perimenopause was horrible for this emotional surge. Some women, but not many, experience new or intensified anger during perimenopause and menopause, not just irritability, a flash of, real disproportionate rage at something really small. I remember the first time it happened to me, and I was like, wow, where did that come from? And I behaved completely irrationally to my husband, and he'd say, like, why are you being so mean? And I'd be like, I'd yell back at him, I'm not being mean. Oh, and then an hour later I'd be back at him apologizing for being mean. Now, that mean woman is not who I am, and what I needed to know and what I need you to know, it's really a documented hormonal response. It's not a character flaw. Recognizing it for what it is gives you the ability to work through it rather than be blindsided by it like I was. The other side, the unexpected freedom. I saved this one for last because I want to end this hard list with something good and true. Because here's what nobody told me, that on the other side of this transition, many women, not all, but many, describe a feeling more themselves, that they feel more themselves than ever. And I'm so glad I'm in this stage, even though the hot flashes persist. The hormonal noise has quieted. People pleasing impulses have softened greatly. And things that used to take up a lot of emotional real estate, worrying about what others think and shrinking yourself to fit into others, people's boxes, I guess we could say, it starts to matter less. I know it has for me. There's a directness and a clarity and a confidence that can come in the years of menopause that I genuinely didn't expect, and it's real, and it's worth talking about as much as everything else. Now, I'm not a doctor, and I want to be very clear about that. Nothing I say here is medical advice, but I do want to share what I've learned having better conversations with your healthcare provider. That's so important because I know a lot of us have walked out of appointments feeling dismissed and feeling like you can't push back. First, a provider that takes you seriously is so important. I'm really lucky to have a provider that respects me and listens to my concerns. There are doctors and nurse practitioners who specialize in menopause not medication. First, find a provider who takes this seriously. I'm really lucky to have a provider that, respects me and listens to me and my concerns. There are doctors and nurse practitioners who specialize in menopausal medicine. The Menopause Society is a directory that has certified providers. I'm going to list that link below because I think it's really important that you just take a look at it. See if there's someone in your area that maybe you might want to consider talking to. You really deserve someone who will actually listen to you and explore options with you. Not hand you an antidepressant medication and show you the door. Second, know that there are more options than there were even 10 years ago. Hormone therapy has been significantly rehabilitated in the research field. The fears around it in the 2000s have been largely revised. The side effects have been greatly reduced. And for many women, it's a very safe option. And this conversation is worth having with a knowledgeable provider. The basics matter more than ever for this transition. And I say that not to be, preachy, because, I felt the difference myself. Sleep protection, strength training, not for weight, but for your bone density and joint support. Protein, reducing alcohol, which worsens the hot flashes and disturbs your sleep. These aren't magic fixes, but they are changes that you really should seriously consider. You are not at the mercy of this transition. You are navigating it. There's a difference. And knowing the difference changes everything. You are not at the mercy of this transition. You are navigating it. And there's a difference because knowing the difference changes everything. You're in the middle of this right now, and if you recognize yourself in any of what I've described today, I want you to hear this clearly as I can say it. You are not losing your mind, you are not weak, and you are not falling apart. You're going through one of the most significant biological transitions of your life with very little support, very little information, and a culture that spent decades pretending it wasn't happening. The fact that you're confused and exhausted and sometimes overwhelmed is not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of how badly you were let down. And the fact that you're here looking for information, looking for real conversations, real information, that's really the right instinct. Keep going, keep asking questions, keep talking about it. Because the more we talk about it, the less alone any of us has to feel. Please chime in the comments, and I really mean that. I want to hear from you. What was the thing that most surprised you about menopause? What do you feel like you wish someone had told you? And what are you still trying to figure out? Tell me, because your answers really help me figure out what this community needs. And really, your comments and responses help other women too. We need to know we're not alone. If this video helps you even just a little, please share it. Text it to a friend, post it somewhere, because there's a woman in your life who's quietly going through this right now and wondering that, is something wrong with her. You can be the person who, changes that for her today. And if you're new here, welcome. This channel is for real conversations about life at 50, 60, and 70 and beyond. The things that we didn't get told and the things we're trying to figure out and the community that we're building along the way. Hit subscribe so you're here for all of it. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being brave enough to talk about this. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And I'll see you the next time.